she has covered most of the issues, but just to add, the moment people embrace corruption, and especially the moment businesses embrace corruption, I can guarantee you that that business cannot be sustainable because first of all, it's to injure their reputation going forward, and within a few years, you see that business folding up. The other thing is on the social front. If you see what has been happening, especially in the Western world now, the impacts you are seeing there and the kind of things that are happening, I would imagine is because of corruption. Because people have been left behind. And the moment you engage in corruption, you find yourself leaving the mass behind. And of course, after a few years, then they're going to rebel against you. And of course, the cost of corruption is extremely high. And therefore, I must say there's a very, very strong business case for anti-corruption initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicholas. Edward?
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, I think corruption really is the act of taking money from where it was intended to in another direction. And obviously that have different shapes. And if this then happens, then what it says is that we cannot be able to develop, because if the money was intended for a specific purpose and it is not achieving that purpose, then we do have a problem. The issue about business and cost of business, truly corruption is affecting that. And the latest number that we have is about it affects 10%, or it increases cost of doing by 10%. It also affects our GDPs by about 25%. So truly, it's an enemy of development, and we must put ways and means of how to tackle it. Unfortunately, in some places, it's a cultural issue. And being a cultural issue, then it means we have to change the mindset and to try to resolve that issue from where it is emanating from. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. We've heard from our speakers just now in terms of the fact that corruption is not good for development. We've heard about the issue of reputation, deters investors, increases the cost of doing business, has negative impact on employees. Some time ago, a speaker said that workers don't want to work for a crook, so if a company is corrupt, they won't have the best workers in town. It dilutes the brand. Reputation, leaving the masses behind. And also that corruption is about stealing. So we don't give a good name. People might say stealing is bad, but you say that corruption is also stealing. And stealing and corruption, they're enemies of development. Now, Phyllis, I'm coming back to you. Why should the private sector be involved in the fight against corruption? Is it not the role of the government? They have the laws, they have and isn't the government, are they the thieves? Is the government that is always asked, So why should the private sector ever get involved in corruption? Why should it?
Joby, thank you for that question. Typically, unfortunately, it has been thought that corruption is something that happens within government and that the private sector did not have a role to play in this. But we must be realistic, because government does not do business with itself, and it's a conversation we've been having in the network for a period of time. The government does business with the business community, with the private sector, meaning that if you deal with corruption only within the government, you'll be clapping with one hand. You won't get much done. You need to deal with corruption by involving all the players. We're having this conversation today about having everyone on board in order to achieve the SDGs, in order to achieve development. And I believe for corruption, the same is true. We must bring everyone on board, because everyone does play a role in resolving the issue, because the problem is not a one-sided challenge. It's a challenge that affects both the business community and the government and the society at large. So we all have to come to the table and do something about it. And as the Global Compact Network, recognizing this, we have framed our agenda around the 4 principles that we're all aware about, around human rights, labor rights, corruption, and issues of the environment, because we are very clear that all these are issues that affect development and sustainable development of our economies. For corruption, we've been as I said, getting our members to commit by signing up to the Code of Ethics. And beyond commitment, we want to see action. So what are they doing within their businesses to ensure that they're having their businesses as corruption-free as possible? What are they doing within their networks, whether it's their suppliers, their agents, the people they do business with? Because this also affects the running of a business. So we are not only fighting it within our businesses, but even within our partnerships. So we've seen members of the network bringing people they do business with to also commit to the Code of Ethics and ensure that they're running ethical businesses.
Thank you. Nicholas, I want your views on that. And also, many companies, organizations have as their tenet the issue of transparency, integrity, and all that. Do you think a company can live up to that standard in a society also where corruption is endemic? It's systemic. Do you think that a company can live up to the issue of doing business with integrity?
Thank you, Jabi. Yes, I do. I do believe a company will succeed, an organization will succeed, even in such an environment. But just going back to the issue of private sector and government in terms of, corruption. My own view is that the private sector actually drives corruption. If the private sector decides today that they are not going to engage in corruption, then of course governments, the governments will have no huge role to play. Corruption is two-way. It is between two or three people, and therefore government cannot corrupt itself. And if as a private sector we stood up strongly to fight this particular vice, I am very sure we will succeed. One thing I must say is that it's not going to be very easy because this is a big social vice, and of course it is happening everywhere. But we must keep on fighting. We must make sure that we have the right policies. We must make sure that we have the right people, who are doing the right thing. And of course, we must make sure that we continue advocating, for good business and ethical practices. And I know even from our own business, it is not easy. Joby, I must say it is not easy, but we keep at it and we'll keep fighting, and I'm very sure we'll succeed. It's all about change in mindsets. It's all about change in culture. It's not a small fight, but I think every other step matters a lot. So even if it's baby steps, I do believe, yes, businesses can survive and businesses can fight corruption. Thank you.
John, has your company been disadvantaged because of the stand that you've taken in terms of wanting to do business with integrity? Have you ever been disadvantaged?
But of course, yes. Of course, you'll always hear snippets here and there, about people trying to negatively influence and impact on the reputation of your business. Sometimes you've even seen some specific people actually being targeted by people around town, and of course we just have to keep at it. However, I think this is this is something that must be driven collectively. But I must also say that we have quite a number of companies in this country who are ready to fight this vice. And actually, we have signed up over 260 of our suppliers to the code, and they have committed and they're willing, to fight corruption in all its forms. So we have not taken it as just a single corporate or as Safaricom. We have gone for more collaboration. We would want to bring everyone on board, so